Hello everyone. I am Shruti Kriti, National Secretary of NPNLC, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this online lecture. I would like to introduce our distinguished guest and also acknowledge the esteemed leadership of our National President, Advocate Jayaprakash Somani. NPNLC began its journey in 2022 under Advocate Jayaprakash Somani's leadership. With over 3 decades of experience, he is a renowned advocate at the Supreme Court of India, author, and legal expert. His contribution to the legal fraternity are immense, and his firm, JSAS, has established itself as a prominent name in the legal domain. Advocate Somani's commitment to making legal services are more accessible and affordable is truly commendable. His free guidance camp and literary contribution, including approximately 65 books on Supreme Court case laws, are a testament to his dedication. Now, our National President, Advocate Jayaprakash Somani, will introduce today's our speaker. Over to Advocate Jayaprakash B. Somani. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Shruti. Thank you very much for introducing Nani Palkhivala National Law Club as well as for giving some words towards me also. Now, this is my part to introduce our chief guest today, Ramakrishnan
Viraraghavan.
Viraraghavan, yes.
It's Viraraghavan. Raghavan is the Veer.
Correct. Ramakrishnan Viraraghavan, sir, is a distinguished senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India with an esteemed legal career spanning 37 years in both in India and London also. He is a barrister-at-law, Inner Temple, and holds an LL.M. in International Commercial Law and Practice from University of Edinburgh, along with the diploma in international arbitration and a fellowship at the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, London. His academic foundation also includes a LL.B. from the University of Bangalore and a BCom from the University of Madras. Viraraghavan is renowned for his expertise in direct and indirect taxes, having appeared before various appellate authorities and high courts in matter of income tax, central excise, and sales tax. His deep knowledge of financial and corporate law was further enriched by the perspectives gained during his directorship in listed companies and by studying international taxation trends. As a senior counsel, he has argued major cases before the apex courts, NCLT, and NCLAT under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and played a vital role in the corporate restructuring, mergers, IPOs, and SEBI-related matters for over 300 companies. And Ramakrishnan sir, this is my pride, privilege, and the blessing of Lord Krishna on me. I am able to publish more than 65 books on Supreme Court case laws. And in that, I have published books on 21 leading cases on income tax also, and 21 leading cases on customs also. So many books are there. And this is my passion. And along with this lawyership, I have given that insolvency professional exam also. I cracked that exams in the 9th attempt. Exam. And I have worked for liquidator, for IRP, RP also. And recently, I am independent director also, qualified independent director by Ministry of Corporate Affairs.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm very, very delightedful because a colleague like you in Supreme Court, who is enlightening to the judges, judges are very carefully listening your arguments. So I'm very delighted. And along with me, all audience and all India audience is ready to listen latest updates in GST and income tax laws from you, sir. And now over to you, sir. Just I will. Yes, you can initiate. I will make you host, so you can start the
Sure.
share.
Thank you very much, Jayaprakash Somani ji and Shruti Kriti ji, for your nice words. Now, As I discussed just before starting the program, with your permission, I would like to talk a little bit about the illustrious Nani Palkhivala before going to the main topic on latest updates.
Yes,
The,
yes, yes, definitely, sir.
the question I'm posing to the audience and to myself is, why is Nani Palkhivala relevant today for all of us? Now, he passed away 23 years ago. 23 years, we have not heard his voice. Why are we still taking his name, and why are we listening to his arguments and books and speeches with pride? Now, that is a question I'd like to pose and answer myself. Now, first thing is, you have heard about the good points of Nani Palkhivala. I will tell you the difficulties and handicaps that he had. Not many people know. First thing, he was a first generation lawyer. He did not come from a lawyer khandani. His ancestral profession was making palanquins. That's how they got his name, Palkhivala. Family was making palkis. And then his father was a middle class merchant, nothing to do with law. That's the first handicap. The second was he had a childhood stammer. He could not speak fluently. He was always stammering. The question is, how can a person, first generation lawyer with speech problems, become such a leading luminary in the constitution? That is a point relevant to us. Third point is he was an accidental lawyer. He was fond of English literature. He finished his master's in English literature, applied to become a lecturer in the Bombay University. Fate was very kind. The application was turned down. By the time his application was turned down, all the other courses admissions were also closed. So left with no choice, he applied to become a lawyer because all other courses were closed. He became an accidental lawyer. So here is a person, I'm repeating again, first generation lawyer with speech problems and no inclination to law, became an accidental lawyer. What we should now learn is his progress from this moment onwards. He tried hard and conquered his stammering problem. He became a very fluent speaker. He started working hard on law. And because of his hard work, he cultivated intellectual brilliance and advocacy. He was not born a great lawyer. He became a great lawyer because of discipline, hard work, and habits. Now, the Inns of Court in London have established a college for advocacy called the Inns of Court School of Law. Now, the Inns of Court College of Advocacy gives lectures such as this to people to enable barristers to become better advocates. And in one of those lectures, which I attended, the finding given was only 2% of success at the bar depends on the intellectual capacity. If only 2%, the balance 98% of success comes from hard work, discipline, good habits, networking. These are the qualities. Intellectual achievement is something which contributes only 2%. Now, Justice Shivrat Patel many years ago was telling me about the 3 and 4 H's of a successful judge. And I'm saying there are 4 H's to be a successful advocate. The 4 H's for success as a lawyer are: first H, humility; second H is hard work; third H, honesty; and the fourth H is health. I will start with humility and give an example of Nani Palkhivala. Now, late Shri Nani Palkhivala always appeared free pro bono in any matter involving the press. He was passionately fond of the freedom of press and he appeared pro bono. Now, My senior in Chennai, Mr. T. Raghavan, he was the legal advisor of the Hindu group of publications. And Hindu had a case before the income tax tribunal. So Palkhivala graciously offered to do that case pro bono, and he came over to Chennai. And my senior received him at the airport. And my senior told me, I'm repeating, he said Palkhivala ji came only with a small suitcase with one shirt and a pant. That's about it. He was wearing a coat and some papers. He did not have anybody to receive him. He did not have anybody to carry his briefcase. He came carrying the briefcase. My senior stood outside and received him. He said, nobody has come with you. He said, no, nobody has come with you. And he said, where is your luggage? He said, I'm carrying my luggage. And with that one small suitcase, he went over there, completed the matter, and got dropped back again at the flight. No fanfare, no importance, self-importance or proclaiming importance, no necessity of a fancy car. He just came over. My senior, I think, had an ordinary car, probably the old Fiat or something. So he got in there. And this is the humility of any advocate. Now, the law is so very complex that unless we are humble, we cannot learn the law. If we are too proud, acquisition of knowledge stops. So the first lesson we learned from Palkhivala is humility. The second is hard work. He used to work round the clock. Wake up at 4 in the morning, give conferences at 2, not for money, but for service. This hard work is the one which takes lawyers to the very top. And hard work is not inherited. One is not born a hard worker. One becomes a hard worker, just as one becomes humble. None of these qualities are inherited. The second issue I'm pointing out is discipline. Discipline is overrated. We all say we must be disciplined, we must be doing this, doing that. Discipline is overrated. Instead, we should cultivate habits like Palkhivala did. Habit of reading, habit of updating, and habit of going to the court, habit of turning up, not taking 10 appearances and giving one appearance a miss, those things. I'm coming to the third health, the last H. Honesty, I'm not talking. You know about it. It's a benchmark. It's not a benchmark. It's an entry level criteria. Last is health. Now, Nani Palkhivala died at 82 years. But today, so many lawyers are dying in their 30s and 40s. Statistics show that 60% of young Indians, men and women, are susceptible to heart diseases. 50% of all heart attacks occur in men below 50 years. 25% occur under 40 years. And most often, the first time a person knows that he has a heart attack, no earlier symptoms, heart attack presents itself and the person dies before he reaches the hospital. So the point I'm emphasizing from Shri Nani Palkhivala is good health matters much more than you think. We all think the brains matter. Our brains and our behavior matters, but we forget that the brain is attached to the body. And unless we take care of our body, we will never become good advocates, because to become a good advocate and a great advocate, you need to be at the bar for a sufficiently long period of time, which means you need to live long. I'm moving from Palkhivala's behaviors and what he did and how he achieved success despite handicaps. I'm going to the next phase of his life when he wrote his famous book, Kanga and Palkhivala on the law of income tax. I like the word law of income tax, and I borrowed the same title for my book, The Law of Goods and Services Tax. Palkhivala was about 6 years at the bar when he started writing his book. He was called to the bar at 1944, and 1950 was when he published his book. Book writing is not easy. Anybody who's written a book will know how difficult it is. I'm sure your president will give you a lot of anecdotes of how difficult writing a book is. I can share an anecdote about Palkhivala's book. Palkhiv, one of the publishers told me, and he was publishing my book also. He said Palkhivala's book was not a bestseller. One of the publishers told Palkhivala that, look, I don't think your book is going to be a great success. We might probably have to sell your book by the kilo, not by the content. So Palkhivala's success at any level did not come easily. He had to struggle. The book started gaining recognition only after the first, second, third edition. Palkhivala's brothers written about the struggles they faced in publishing the book. And this was a time when books were written on a typewriter and with a metal offset printing, not the kind we learn now. What we can now learn, ultimately summarizing, is good advocacy, brilliant advocacy like Palkhivala's is not inherited. It is always through hard work, through discipline, through good habits and application of mind. We become good advocates. I'm giving another example from the United States Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court was interviewed by a law professor called Garnier. He wrote a book called Garnier Transcripts. And in Garnier Transcripts, he asked the Chief Justice how he was practicing as an advocate. And the Chief Justice said, I used to rehearse every argument. I used to have my juniors in front of me and I used to argue before them. And every point of argument, he said he used to put bit papers and mark those papers 1, 2, 3, 4. He used to shuffle all the papers and randomly pick one number and start arguing from there. Because he said you don't know which will be the first point the judge will ask you to argue. You cannot argue according to your first point. You have to take the judge's point, even if it is the last in your list of arguments. So this is the kind of hard work and preparation that we can learn from Palkhivala. And I'm so happy that this organization with Sri Sumaniji and Kritiji, you are promoting, making Palkhivala's name perpetual, not for anything else, but because his name will inspire others to also become better advocates and reach the standards of advocacy practiced by and perfected by Palkhivala. So this is my short take on what Palkhivala means to us. Now I would move on to the first part of my lecture, which is on the latest update in income tax laws. The latest update in income tax law is, of course, the Income Tax Act 2025. Why do we have an Income Tax Act 2025 so many years after the Income Tax Act 1961? To answer this question, let's first look at the statement of objects and reasons of the Income Tax Bill 2025. I'm not able to share the screen once again. Are you able to see the screen? Can you please confirm, Shruti, if you are able to see the screen? No, you're muted. I think everybody is muted. I hope you're able to see the screen. No. Can you please send a message if you are able to see the screen? You've got it now. Are you able to see this? I'm reading out the statement of objects and reasons for the Income Tax Bill 2025. The statement of objects and reasons says the Income Tax Act passed in 1961 is very, very complex, has been subjected to numerous amendments since its passage 60 years ago. As a result of these amendments, the basic structure of the Income Tax Act has been overburdened, and the language has become complex, increasing cost of compliance for taxpayers and hampering efficiency of direct tax administration. Tax administrators, practitioners, and taxpayers have also raised concerns about the complicated provisions and structure of the Income Tax Act. Therefore, the government in the budget of July 2024 announced a time-bound comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961 would be undertaken to make the act, just look at these words, to make the act concise, lucid, easy to read and understand. Accordingly, the Income Tax Bill 2025 has been prepared, which proposes to repeal and replace the Income Tax Act 1961. So let's see what they want. Too many amendments, overburdened, language is complex. Therefore, we are having this 2025 bill to make the act concise. Concise means smaller, lucid, clear, easy to read and understand. Okay. Let's look at the statistics. The first Income Tax Act in India is the 1860 Income Tax Act. Okay, 1860 Income Tax Act was enacted after the revolt, 1857 revolt, to raise money for maintaining armies, etc. That Income Tax Act 1860, the same year as the old Indian Penal Code, that had no sections. It was in the form of a narration. It had 4 schedules, only 4 schedules for each heading of income, and the total act ran to only 30 pages. This is 1860. Now come to 1922, Income Tax Act 1922. This act had 136 sections, only 1 schedule. The word count was between 25,000 and 30,000 words. Next, Income Tax Act 1961. 298 sections, 14 schedules, and 2 lakh words. Okay. Income Tax Act 2025. 536 sections, 16 schedules, 250,000 words. Number of words, 25% more than the 1961 Act. Now, if you come to the statement of objects and reasons, simplification, lucid, concise, nothing has happened. How can you simplify? By adding 25% more words. How can you simplify from 298 sections to 536 sections, 14 schedules to 16 schedules? So whatever this is not simplification. Every time the government says they are simplifying, I feel happy because that will be more work for the professionals. They are not going to simplify. Now, let's go back to 1958. We are now in 2025. Let's go back to 1958, before 3 years before the 1961 Income Tax Act was enacted. And let's see what was the situation at that point of time. I'm taking you through the report of the Law Commission, the 12th report of the Law Commission. This is a report dated 26 September 1958, and the Law Commission was headed by MC Setalvad. Setalvad was, as you know, the first Attorney General of India, and he served for a record time, I think until 1968 or something. He prepared this, and it will be of interest to you that Sri Nani Palkhivala was also a member here. If you look at paragraph 2, at the request of the Government of India, the Commission agreed to take up the revision of the Income Tax Act and entrusted the task to a committee consisting of Sri P. Satyanarayan Rao, Sri G. N. Joshi, and Sri N. A. Palkhivala, who was specially appointed a member for the purpose of revision of this act. Palkhivala was about 12, 13 years at the bar, but he was so distinguished, they asked him to revise the new act. Now, this is the comment, this is the report, and the introduction part of the Law Commission's report says this, paragraph 2. The hopeless confusion into which income tax law has fallen is mainly due to precipitate and continuous tinkering with the act by the legislature. The amendments to the Income Tax Act have been so short-sighted and so short-lived as to rob the law of that modicum of stability which is essential to its healthy growth. Before the provisions of the Act can be sufficiently clarified by the judicial legislation process, new provisions are substituted in their place. In legislation, as in other fields of human activity, it is well to bear in mind the dictum of Bacon, tarry a little, so we may make the end the sooner. Stability is most essential to proper administration of a taxing statute, and if the tax structure in this country is to be put on a sound footing, it is essential to halt should be called to the making of ill-digested amendments in a frenzy of hurry, which has characterized the history of income tax law for the past few years. Past few years is 1950 to 1958. Okay. Second comment by the committee. The government has asked us to revise the Income Tax Act so as to make its provision more intelligible without affecting its basic tax structure. The task is difficult, and as the Codification Committee in England said, to expect from us a codification of the law of income tax, which the layman could easily read and understand, was a vain hope, which only the uninstructed could cherish. It is perhaps possible to make the provisions of the Act more logical and clearer without affecting the tax structure, but it is certainly not possible to make the Act simpler without encroaching upon at least the fringe and verge of the tax structure. However, we have made an attempt to arrange the provisions in a more logical manner, also make them simpler and clearer. We have codified some of the principles well established by decisions not contained in the provisions of the present Act. So you see from the report of the Law Commission that the problem with the Income Tax Act in 1922 Act in 1958 is exactly similar to the problem identified in the Statement of Objects and Reasons in 2025. The Act is very complex, and the answer is found in the Law Commission's report. The Law Commission says the Income Tax Act is very complex because of frequent amendments. I will give you an example of one of the world's most famous paintings, the Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa was painted by the famous painter Leonardo da Vinci in 1503. 500 years ago, and it is exhibited in the French Museum in Paris at Louvre. 500-year-old painting. Now you imagine the French finance ministers. Every year, the finance minister looks at Mona Lisa and says, look, I want to touch up the painting. I want to make it more beautiful. I want to make it more attractive. If each finance minister tinkers with Mona Lisa, even the world's most famous beautiful painting will not last 5 years. It will be an ugly painting at the end of 5 years. The same thing should not happen to the Indian Income Tax Act of 2025. Today, we have a new act without a single amendment. What will happen if the parliament starts amending it every finance act and in between finance acts? So we will end up with the same, not only a complex act is already complex, it is not simplified. 298 sections to 536 sections. To make this complication even further complicated by amending, that is the end of the journey. If you look at the scheme of the Income Tax Act, the substantive law is in the Income Tax Act. Only the rates and the provision slabs, these are amended every financial year by the Finance Act. Now, if this structure is retained, then we will have some degree of stability, we will have some degree of intelligible, understandable Income Tax Act. If, like the past, every Finance Act also amends the Income Tax Act, then God help us, we are back in a mess. This is the preliminary on the Income Tax Act itself. Let's look at the few changes which the Income Tax Act 2025 has made over the 1961 Act. Now, if you're saying is this an old wine in a new bottle, I will say mostly old wine. They have added some new wine also, and they've made the bottle 25% bigger. This is the sum and substance of the changes. The first change made, which all of you know, is there is a change in terminology. Earlier, the income of the assessment year, income of the previous year, used to be assessed in the assessment year. When I was young at the bar, we had provisions for various kinds of previous years. Each person can have a different previous year in respect of different sources of income also. It was very confusing, and a number of questions in the exam was on previous year and how do you compute previous year. I used to dread those questions. Later on, previous year was standardized. Now previous year has been abolished. Let's take a look at that provision. On the previous year. This is the charging provision, section 4, where any central act enacts that the income shall be charged for any tax year at any rate or rates. Income tax for that tax year shall be charged at that rate or rates in accordance with and subject to the provisions of the act. What is a tax year? That is defined in section 3. For the purpose of this act, tax year means 12-month period of the finance year commencing from 1st April. So previous year goes and tax year comes in. If you say tax year, look at section 4. Central Act enacts that an income tax shall be charged for any tax year. Now, if it is going to be charged for a tax year, and what will you call the year in which the assessment is taking place? For that, the section is used the word relevant tax year. So the income is charged for a relevant tax year and assessed in the 12 financial year following the relevant tax year. So even if there is a definition of tax here, the definition is split up into two categories. One is the relevant tax year where the income is charged, and the second is the tax year following the relevant tax year where the income is assessed. So this is the first concept, and it's supposed to be a unique concept. Yes, it makes terminology great, but it doesn't go beyond there. Then I will run through the other terminologies. The clearer definitions have been given for terms like resident, income, digital assets. Like for the first time, digital assets have come in. You have virtual assets, digital earnings, cryptocurrencies, virtual assets, they have come in. Then you have the very nice faceless compliance, faceless assessments, faceless appeals, and faceless revisions. This reduces human interface and reduces corruption also. But the problem here is professional efficiency must improve. If you have in-person assessments and appeals, if there is some mistake, there is time to correct the mistake, ask for an adjournment. Those things are absent in faceless. It's all documentation. Everything must be properly documented and must be documented well in advance. The room for mistakes has come down. If there is a mistake in a faceless assessment in documentation, very difficult to correct it. Appeals are also faceless. Then you have separate provisions for business startup incentives, and capital gains for virtual assets and digital transactions have been produced. You have administrative procedures, updates, search and seizure, powers with digital assets also included, reassessment procedures, extends limitation period, penalty provisions have been modernized, and you have less scope for discretion. Again, the idea is to minimize discretion in penalties and reduce corruption. Filing process has been made e-filing mandatory. Deductions, numerous deductions have been streamlined. Then there's been grouping. All the TDS provisions have been grouped in. Unified digital appeal systems has been given. Then simplified stab rates, dedicated chapter for startups, unified treatment of capital gains, including digital assets, TDS and tax collection, both of them consolidated into one chapter, transfer pricing expanded, clarified. Thankfully, audit thresholds have been upgraded because with inflation, the existing audit thresholds were not at all necessary. You need to upgrade those, and they have done it. Standardized penalty, as I say. So all these taken together, there are good incentives by this Income Tax Act. But how far will this take? How long will the courts take to look at these? We really don't know. We just have to wait. And what we need to wait and pray is we must hope that future amendments won't be there, and the structure of Income Tax Act being maintained without amendments, only Finance Act clarifying rate and slab. That should be the ideal situation. We will wait to see if this happens or not. I've now completed the updates latest on income tax. I had a couple of issues, case law, which I thought I'll cite with you, but I'll quickly run through that. We don't have much time, otherwise I won't have time to tell you about the GST updates. One very nice judgment of the Supreme Court is the judgment defining what permanent establishment is. This is the case of one second. This is the case of Hyatt International Southwest Asia Limited, Additional Director of Income Tax. It's reported in 2025 Live Law Supreme Court 738. a bench of Justices Pardiwala and Mahadevan decided what is a permanent establishment. Now, in this case, the hotel was based in Dubai, the SSE, and they were in a consultancy agreement affecting a hotel in India. They did not have any physical place of there, but they had shared space and access to space in the hotel. The Supreme Court said the entire hotel was under the effective practical control of this foreign entity. They could have access to the hotel, and the mere fact that the control was shared, physical access was shared, is enough to make it into a permanent establishment. There is another judgment on reduction of shares and capital gains. This is a judgment of Principal Commissioner of Income Tax and Jupiter Capital Private Limited. The Supreme Court said reduction of share capital where the shares were extinguished, that also falls within the definition of capital gains, and the mere fact that the shares were reduced, they were extinguished, they were not with the company, they were not with the shareholder, the number of shares reduced. That is not relevant in view of the very wide extended definition of transfer under the capital gains provisions of the Income Tax Act 1961. Now I'll come over to the GST provisions. Updates in GST. The first key reform since January this year is a reduction in slabs. Earlier we had 5%, 12%, 18 and 28. Now there is a simplified 5% and 18% slab system. This is a welcome development. I'm not getting into which goods are in which slab. I'm not getting into it, but I'm observing that reduction in the number of slabs is a good thing. A lot of disputes in GST turns on classification, and classification depends on the slab structure. If there are different slabs, people will try, the revenue will try to classify a particular product in the highest slab possible. The assessee will try to classify it under the lowest tax category. Now, between the assessee's argument and the revenue's argument on classification, it is so irrational. Very often, I think the Supreme Court can decide the matter on a toss of a coin rather than wasting time and effort on explaining the reasons for a particular classification. Now, in some countries abroad, there has been only one category, only one tax rate. And this, I think, is the best, because there can be no problem with aviation. There can be no problem with misclassification if there is a single slab rate. We have not reached the single slab rate. We are now on a 2 slab rate. And hopefully at some point of time, when the economy becomes more mature, we will have the single slab rate. Now, even this double slab rate is not technically a double slab rate, because there are zero tax structures and there are exemptions. Both zero rate and exemption rates are a difficulty. Exemption rates even more difficult. Now, if you have a zero rated structure, then there'll be an inversion. The inputs ITC will be much more when the output tax is 0%. And in exemptions, the entire output tax, input tax credit is not available. It is a misnomer that most lay people think if a particular goods or services is exempt from GST, that is a good thing and the price will come down. They are completely wrong. The price will not come down because of the exemption. Actually, because of the exemption, there will be a cascading effect of taxes. All the taxes up to the point of GST, up to the point of exemption, will be taken in, and the customer will pay for that without any scope for input tax credit. Similarly, zero rated, you have the inverted duty structure and difficulties in getting input tax credit. So this is one good development. These developments are all developments relating to the subordinate legislation. Fortunately, there's been no significant amendments in the GST laws, in the statutes, only in the subordinate legislation rules, etc. These have been amended. There have again been compliance simplification. You have auto-linked returns. GSTR 1, 3B are now pre-filled, auto-linked, reducing manual errors. Very important. It's so complicated. You have manual errors, and a small error goes right up to the High Court. So much time and costs lost in this. Then you have real-time ITC tracking. This is a good thing. Actually, a better issue would be to put the burden of ITC clearly on the recipient. If the recipient has paid the ITC, then he should be entitled to ITC credit, regardless of whether the supplier deposited the ITC or not. If the supplier did not deposit ITC, logically you should go after the supplier and not penalize the recipient. In economic terms, this is called default risk. If one person defaults, who should take the burden of the default? Now, should the government take the burden, or should the supplier take the recipient take the burden? My suggestion is the government should take the burden, because the government has enforcement mechanism which the recipient does not. If the supplier does not deposit the ITC which has been paid by the recipient, this recipient cannot do anything about it. He cannot file a police case. He cannot file a cheating complaint. Not possible. But the government can do all these things and recover. In the same manner where TDS has not been deposited, enforcement machinery should be done. So this reform has not taken place. It's due for reform. The second is structural reform, inverted duty correction. This resolved long-standing issues where ITC rates exceeded output rates, especially in textiles, electronics. Then threshold revisions have been there for composition scheme, registration thresholds revised to include more small businesses. Now, the registration threshold and composition threshold has economic significance. In all taxation, there are two things to be. One is recovery of taxation, and the second is the government's cost of recovery of taxation. Let's take an example. If the government recovers 100 rupees as taxes, but the cost of recovery of that 100 rupees is 99 rupees, then the government actually gains only 1 rupee from taxes. Registration thresholds and composition scheme thresholds are created at a level where the cost of recovery tends to exceed the cost of tax collected, the value of tax collected. In these cases, it is better to exempt that person from taxation rather than get him into the taxation net and spend money collecting very little taxes from him. This has now been altered, and this is a good development because it indicates that people want to be within the GST network. They want to be compliant because of the advantages it gives by being within the system. The other faceless scrutiny in direct taxes has become very successful, and therefore faceless scrutiny has been launched as a pilot project in GST audits and assessments modeled after income tax. Hopefully, what is the outcome of this? The outcome of all structural reforms in GST laws must be reduce the compliance cost for the assessee. If the compliant cost is increased, then the assessee is paying tax rate GST plus. The plus is the compliance cost. So the assessee is actually being taxed more than necessary. So the lesser the compliance cost, the more the assessee will feel easy to comply with. The second structural reform, as I pointed out, is the cost of collection should come down. The lesser the cost of collection, the better it is for the government, because the net collection after expenses, cost of collection will be more, and that might even result in lowering of the tax rates. Then the next structure, the reform, which is long pending and slowly taking place, is the GST appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal members are now being appointed, and slowly all over India, the tribunal will come into force. Orientation programs are going on, training, orientation, all that is happening. The National Judicial Academy at Bhopal is taking a leading role in this, as it should do. We have great expectations from the GST Appellate Tribunal. We hope the tribunal will be able to deliver the goods which high courts have found it very difficult to deliver under Article 226, 227. The High Court's powers under 226, 227 are limited. That's the first difficulty. The second difficulty is to find tax-knowing judges. Many High Court judges and lawyers also feel tax is an esoteric subject. People can't understand. You need to be intellectuals to understand. Completely wrong. Taxation that's a mental block. Taxation is very easy. Every subject has its own jargon. Taxation has its jargon. If you practice taxes, you read tax judgments for a month, you will pick it up. Only 1 month is needed. But people are not willing to put that 1 month's hard work on and discipline in reading taxation reports and taxation statutes, which is why you have a problem with the High Court. If it's a tax judge, you will have good judgments under 226. If it's not a tax judge, then you will find it difficult. And that's one problem. The second problem is there is no consistency in the approach between different high courts. So you have difficulties there, and those difficulties lead to appeals to the Supreme Court. All these difficulties, we are hopeful, will be solved by the constitution of the GST Appellate Tribunal, which is a single uniform body, and precedence one bench is binding on the others. Now, I think we are nearly at the end of this. I have 3 judgments. I will quickly go through those judgments and close my speech. Oh, sharing is not turned on. I think I will stop citing those judgments. I will just read through those judgments. The one judgment on GST of the Supreme Court is Radhika Agarwal and Union of India. It is reported in 2025, 150 GSTR 121. The Supreme Court 3 judgment lays down. Yes, sir.
Sir, I will make you host. You can share that judgment.
No. I think we are running out of time. It's nearly 1 hour. So I will just close with it. So yes. Radhika Agarwal is a great judgment. It upheld the statutory constitutional validity of GST arrest provisions, but it has incorporated enormous number of safeguards for the arrested person, and it has also incorporated, it says CRPC doesn't apply really because it says GST officers are not police officers. But having said that, it incorporates most of the CRPC provision, now this BNSS provisions for CGST officers also. So this is a great judgment. Anticipatory bail has also been provided. With this, I complete my speech on the updates and over to
Uh,
our
just,
president.
just we want. I am very grateful to you on behalf of Nani Palkhivala National Law Club. You elaborate Nani Palkhiwala's short story at the beginning that we
Yes.
will definitely cut it again different, and we'll post that differently also. And this is my invitation now. Just keep 16th January after 4 p.m. open, because we
Right.
are celebrating in Krishna Memon Hall.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful. That's near the Supreme Court.
Yes, birth anniversary of Nani Palkhivala. At that time, we will honor you in
Definitely.
well manner. Okay, and
Thank you.
we all participant want to listen about your legal journey, about your little bit childhood, how you come into this field, and how you reach up to the designated senior advocate, and how you are you become the barrister also. And so we want to listen this in 10 or 15 minutes, whatever you
Oh,
require.
yes.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
It's been many of the good things which happened in my life were all accidents. So that was how I will explain it to you. It's an interesting journey.
Yes, yes.
Do you want another day? Is it? We have run out of
No,
time.
no, no. Yeah, yeah. Now you can mention your story in short also.
No, I would not, because we have 1 hour and it's a
Okay.
Saturday evening. I think the audience will be uh, thinking of doing many other things on a Saturday evening.
But no issue. In 10 minutes they can spare the time. Nobody is leaving.
Okay,
Everybody. So
very well.
listen
Uh,
very
uh,
carefully.
my entire journey as a lawyer, as a barrister, as a senior advocate, these are the three things, uh, was completely accidental. Uh, and it happened in very, I think um, हरवंश राय बच्चन wrote, मन का है तो अच्छा, न हो मन बढ़िया. Because if it is not according to our mind, it will be better, because it is according to God's mind. Uh, um, when I was in college, I did my commerce degree, and I was in the NCC. I got my C certificate also. I wanted to become an officer in the Indian Army. And at that point of time, the army is so very uh, protocol bound, and they did a lot of things which, as a young lawyer, I said that is against the rules. So I went and complained. And you know what happens when a student complains to the army that you're not following the rules? Nothing. They just said, get lost. I said, I'll show you guys. I will become a lawyer and I'll teach you a lesson. So that was one accident. The second accident was after finishing BCom, I wanted to become, so the army was ruled out. Then I thought I will become a CA or ACS or a lawyer. ICWA. So I went to all these institutes and got the prospectus and syllabus. I kept the syllabus on my table. Every syllabus was very, very thick. The thinnest syllabus was LL.B. I said, let me be a lawyer because the syllabus is thin. And the advantage I had is I come from a generation, 4 generations of lawyers. My great grandfather were lawyers. Uh, then after I became a lawyer, I wanted to go to the Mofussil where my grandfather was practicing in the district court and then practice as a lawyer in the district court. So I thought there will be a lot of advantage, goodwill of my grandfather. My father and my uncle told me, be very careful. Grandfather is not the kind of person that you think he is. I lasted in my grandfather's office for exactly 1 month. My grandfather was a brilliant lawyer, but he did not tolerate fools. Even his favorite grandson, nothing was spared. I got a beating every day. And I said, let me run away from my grandfather. And I came back to the High Court and started practicing the High Court. So I was chased from the district court, but in the High Court also I was fond of trial law. So the Madras High Court where I was practicing had original jurisdiction. Then my senior was a specialist in income tax and company law. So I joined his office and said, I want to do some income tax and company law briefs. He told me, you cannot specialize without good general knowledge. You don't know Transfer of Property Act, you don't know CPC, you don't know Contract Act. How can you come to Companies Act and Income Tax Act? He said, don't step into the High Court. You will not come into the High Court. Go to the City Court and practice for 5 years, then I will see you. So I sat in his office. I hated him. I said, he's such a big man. He does not want me to grow. He is sending me to the City Court when he's taking all the High Court briefs. But today, every day, I am thankful for him. 10 years, 5 years of exposure, cross-examination, CPC, Transfer of Property Act has made me a fine lawyer at the Supreme Court. But for that, I will not have been able to tackle the variety of practice at the Supreme Court.
Very nice, very nice.
So then why did I become a barrister? See, very accidentally, one barrister came over to my office in Chennai. And she said, I want to prepare a will for my Indian property. This is a will prepared by an English solicitor. That will was rubbish. So I told my juniors, if this is the kind of will an English solicitor prepares, then all of us can become an English solicitor without any problem. And I prepared a new will and gave it. She was very happy. She said, no, you must become a barrister.
They motivated you.
She did not motivate me. She pushed me. She caught me by my neck and pushed me. So when she said, become a barrister, I reacted. If somebody says something stupid, what do? He said, that's a great idea. I will carefully consider it. And I left her. Then I went to England. I went to London on some other work. I made the mistake of telling her that I'm coming to London. She met me at my hotel. She took about 300 pounds or something. It was at that point of time, it was 40,000 rupees. It was like pickpocketing. She forced me to give that money. She says, I'm taking the money and I'm applying to make you a barrister.
Wow, kya baat?
No problem was, it was not becoming a barrister. That 300, 400 pounds was for sitting the exam. And what happened to me was, I said, being a middle class, I said, I cannot let 30,000 go down the drain. So, like you're writing the book, I was sitting in the corridor, I was sitting in the airport, I was sitting in the railway station reading English law. I said, I'm complete a madman. Why should I do this? Fortunately, I passed the exam. That exam was a very tough exam. 64% was a pass mark. So I passed the exam. And then I said, I will come back. But when I was coming back, the Inner Temple sub-treasurer said, don't make the same mistake Mahatma Gandhi did. I said, he's a great man. What mistake did he do? He said, no. He left London the next day after he became a barrister. And you know how he suffered. He did not get a single brief in India. He had to go to South Africa. He suffered because he was not a trained barrister. Said, I won't let you go. So because of that gentleman, I stayed 2 years in London. I worked as a barrister for 2 years. And in that 2 years, I was feeling bored also. So I went to Scotland. I did my LLM in international law in Edinburgh. And I came back. And my senior was never a senior advocate. He was offered senior advocate or judgeship. He refused both. So I said, when my senior was not a designated senior advocate, I should not be a senior advocate also. So for a long time, I refused senior advocacy. Then Justice Cowell was the Chief Justice of Madras at that point of time. So he made me a senior advocate. And that was how my journey started. All of them were complete accidents.
Very enlightening story, and we are very happy to listen all your story and whatever points you elaborate related to the income tax, whatever points you elaborate to related to the GST latest updates also. So very enlightening speech, and we are very thankful to you. Now, Shruti, I'm unmuting you. You can unmute yourself and you can conclude this session. Shruti.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. A heartful vote of thanks to our esteemed guests, Senior Advocate Ramakrishnan Viraraghavan, sir, for graciously accepting our invitation and delivering an enlightening lecture today. Sir, we are truly grateful for the time took to share your invaluable knowledge with us. I'd like to extend my gratitude to our National President Advocate Jayaprakash Somani and the entire NPNLC team for the continuous support and guidance. To all the participants, thank you for joining us today and making this online lecture a resounding success. Thank you once again, sir, for your inspiring presence and for sharing your wisdom with us. And we are eagerly looking forward to our next online lecture series with Senior Advocate uh, Rasna Srivastav, ma'am. And additionally, mark your calendar for tomorrow's 26th October, where I, as a National Secretary of NPNLC, has organized an online free legal guidance camp where our very own lecture speaker guest, Advocate Jayaprakash, the speaker. We hope you will join us again, continuous the journey. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.